it's what I read, paranormal romances and all of that for a really long time. And when I decided to write a book, that just seemed like a natural fit for me.
Which of these books is your first?
Sweet Vengeance.
Sweet Vengeance. Okay. And I
Yeah.
noticed that you write about vampires. They all have vampires in them, or
The novels, I've got two novels so far, and it's a trilogy.
uh-huh.
So yeah, they both center around Jessica Sweet, who is human, and Raven, who is her love interest, and he is a vampire.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, so that series does have, the vampires, but it also has werewolves and shifters and um, sorcerers and all kinds of other people in it. But then I have a short story series that I just published the first one January 1st, and that centers around the werewolves. And
Okay.
so there are no vampires in that one. It's a 4-part series, and I'll be releasing. I did the first one January 1st, and then there'll be one every 3 weeks until they're all out.
That's interesting. How long are they, the books themselves in the
Um,
series?
the the novels are the first one's about 100,000 words. The second one's 120,000, so they're a little on the long side.
Wow. And
The short
you've
story,
already written those. They've already been developed.
yeah, the first two are published. The third one's written. It's a little shorter. It's only like 90,000, and I'll be publishing that one probably um, the end of March. Yeah, hope fingers crossed. This has still got a lot of editing to go.
Well,
You know how
wow.
that
I mean,
goes.
how long did it? I mean, you're talking how 4 books you said with the werewolves?
What the werewolves is for, yeah,
Yeah.
those are a lot shorter. Those are just they range from 6,000 to 13,000.
Oh, okay. So you're writing
So
in smaller drips and drabs with the
yeah,
werewolves. Did
yeah.
you
The
do did you do the vampires the same way, where you kind of, pressed through 400,000 words and then published, or you're kind of
No,
writing those? No.
I just the first one I wrote on my lunch breaks over a 2-month period. And I wrote the 100,000 words in that time. But I sat
That's
on that
great.
one.
Now you're talking
Yeah.
about when you're doing furniture with your husband, right?
No, actually, this is my other job.
Wow, how many jobs do you have?
If you count the writing, it's 3.
Yeah, of course I count the writing. So I know you do furniture with your husband. You
Yes.
refurbish furniture with your husband, right?
Yes.
You
Correct.
weave wicker, I believe I read in your biography.
Yep. Cane, rush, wicker, all of that.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
fascinating. I wish I knew that furniture refurb stuff. That's a nice little hobby to get into. What's the other job? What's the third one?
I am the regional assistant for a sales office for a large bearing manufacturer. So
Bearing?
it's a, yeah,
Barin. Oh, okay.
Bearing. Yeah.
That makes sense for the southwest portion of Ohio. That's a big manufacturing mecca, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is indeed. So yeah, we sell a lot of bearings here, but the region I work for though is actually the Northeast region, and it ranges all the way from the East Coast through Kentucky and Ohio. So
Interesting. My mom actually lives in the southeast portion of Ohio, that tri-state area.
oh
We
really?
are
Whereabouts?
Proctorville, right across the
Proctorville?
river
I'm
from
not.
Huntington, West Virginia.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's not a great place to live. I don't know why
Okay.
she's stuck there. She just can't leave. She's fallen in love with the hills and whatnot. And this is a
Well,
woman
it's
that's from
beautiful.
Brooklyn too. Oh yeah, it is
Oh
sometimes.
wow. Wow.
Now, see, your neighbors with John Scalzi over there in the Southwest,
Okay. I'm
science
not
fiction
familiar with
author.
him.
He's
I'm sorry.
the science fiction author.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He lives in that area too, and he says it's lovely.
Yeah, it's really nice. I mean, I've been here almost all of my life. Um, left for brief periods, but I always come back. So,
Oh, so you were
um,
born and raised in Ohio.
yeah, yeah, a small farming community. Um, Everybody knows everybody, and yeah, I don't live there now.
Oh, you don't? So bigger
No,
town for you. Oh, gotcha.
yeah, yeah. My husband and I live in one of the suburbs of Dayton. So
Okay, Dayton's kind of big.
yeah.
Don't know much. I've only been through up to Akron once, I believe, and I don't think that's the southwest portion. I think that's the other
No,
side, the
that's
blue
north.
one.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
north.
Ohio is a very interesting place, a very powerful political place as well.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very interesting. We won't get into all that, but it
Okay.
makes it makes me think of
Yay.
men with fake tans and wine-stained teeth.
You. Yeah, very sad only.
I cringe a little bit.
There
Um,
are a lot.
yeah. So why vampires? I mean, I know you said you read those books as a kid, but what drew you
Mhm.
to write your own stories as an adult?
Um, I started the first book I wrote was it was actually a form of therapy for
Mm.
me. My husband and I lost the only baby we would
Oh,
have late in pregnancy, and um, I somebody told me to write that it would help, with the healing process, and my intention was to write a nonfiction, sort of this is my experience with losing, because people don't want to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about it. If you lose a baby,
yeah,
um, it doesn't matter whether you're early in pregnancy or right up till the ninth month. I mean, we
it's
were,
painful.
you know, pretty far into the pregnancy, and I mean, we held the child. It was that far in.
Ugh.
Um, and
Yeah, man, that's gotta
so,
wreck you on the inside.
oh,
My
absolutely,
my
absolutely.
wife and I
So,
just had kids of our own a few years ago, and she's on this mama's board, on the internet, and every once in a while, a mom will lose their child, and they'll post a picture, and it's devastating to look at this
oh,
little tiny hand. And
yeah, it is. And our baby was a girl that we named Jessica. And she yeah, she weighed less than half a pound. I mean, she was very, very tiny.
your
Um,
character's name is Jessica,
yes, it is Jessica Sweet.
and you chose to make her an
Um,
orphan, though. That's interesting.
um, well, yes. I can't give too much away, but
No, no,
yes.
please don't. But I mean, it's a fascinating way to start on writing, because I think of Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein, and obviously that time in history, you could not keep a kid alive. I mean, they just died all over the place,
Right,
and
right,
she was suffering from such amazing loss. Her and her husband just could not keep a child alive, and I don't think she was
right.
trying to do it through therapy or whatever, but she wrote Frankenstein, which obviously is this, tale of resurrecting the dead or whatever.
Right. Wow. Wow. Yeah, that it well, I had intended to just make it, this is our story, but I was hoping for a happy ending where, to give people hope that yeah, I lost this child, but we would get pregnant in my fantasy world, we would get pregnant again, we would have a baby and, not replace Jessica, but at least something to move on.
Hmm.
Um, but that didn't happen. Um, I it just didn't happen. We never got pregnant again. And so, I didn't want to write that kind of a, this is horrible. This horrible thing happened to me. It could happen to you. Too bad. That didn't seem like a really good book to write.
So
So I
basically,
decided,
this book is going, Sweet Vengeance is going through incarnations. It's gone from nonfiction, and now you're adopting it to what it will become.
um, well, I decided to, instead of doing, that, to make a story about a girl kind of giving our Jessica a life, you know,
Hmm.
with good things and bad things and all of that, but not something. I didn't want people to think that I was, losing myself, losing it, and that I thought that this was real. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I thought by making it paranormal with the vampires and everything, that puts it firmly in the fiction category. Um, you know,
Yeah, it's very
and
interesting. And but she does not. Oh well, I mean, to get into the idea of vampires. I mean, that's just a fascinating subject all on its own as well.
Well,
Why? I mean, what was your
because they're
original?
hot.
Yeah. Well, I will admit, I read Anne Rice as a kid, like would not stop. I love the Vampire Chronicles so much. It was so
Yes.
good, and that's basically where it stopped. I don't think I ever really got into vampires besides Anne Rice. What was your first experience with vampires?
Oh my gosh. It- I honestly don't remember. I know the ones that I read the most, I read a lot of J.R. Ward, the Black Dagger Brotherhood. Um, uh, there's oh my gosh, there's just so many. I read so many. The Sookie Stackhouse books,
Mm,
the Southern Vampires.
mhm.
I read all of those. Um, yeah,
Did
there's
you
just I
enjoy
mean,
the books more than the HBO series, or do they kind of mesh up in your opinion?
the books were better
The books
in
are
my
better.
opinion. I mean, I enjoyed the series. I watched all of it. I stuck with it through the whole thing, but it went totally a different direction than what the books did. The books were a little, I don't know, a little sweeter, if you can say that. And the HBO stuff that just got
Dark,
totally awful.
bloody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, my books are a little dark too, but
Oh yeah.
they're vampires, so you just kind of figure they're going to be that way.
What I find interesting about it is they always change depending who you're reading too. I mean, the mythology just doesn't just stay the same. I mean, you have Anne
No.
Rice's where, they spawn from what? I mean, she just wrote a new book on the Vampire Chronicles where they might be spacing aliens or something along those lines. I mean, it's just really fascinating how this thing that started in Eastern Europe has become, as an explanation for why what graves were disturbed. I mean, what's the beginning of vampires? I mean, the lore is fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, I made up all new stuff.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
great. I mean, you could use these
yeah.
monsters as a blank canvas.
Right. I mean, there's some of it is still. I mean, they still drink blood, but they also eat food. So, they have the blood's for the magic, the food is for their bodies.
Interesting.
They need both to keep going.
That was always my
Um,
disappointing thing about vampires. I'm like, oh, you can live forever, but you never can eat pizza again.
yeah, see, that's not a good swap.
No,
I
it's
don't I
not.
don't think that's a good exchange.
So
So,
what
and
what kind
they
of magic are we talking about? Because I know it kind of sounds like now you're blending your genres a little bit. You're going from horror, and if they have magic, you're going into fantasy a little bit. Are you talking about like sorcery or like blood magic?
well, with the vampires, the magic I speak of in that is the thing that keeps them. They're not immortal. My
Mhm.
vampires, they're not immortal, but they live a really, really, really long time. Um,
Do they age? Excuse me.
Eventually, yeah, it takes hundreds and hundreds of years for them to actually start showing their age. But yeah, if you see one that looks old, he's probably over 1,000.
Hmm.
But when they get to a certain, like 20s, 30s, they kind of stay there for a while, but eventually they will start to age. But there's magic in what keeps them alive, and that's where the blood, the drinking of the blood comes in. With the werewolves, there's that magic that makes them transform. The sorcerers do real magic. They have the incantations and the potions and all of those things, but they're the bad guys. So anything they do is probably not good. in
Now, are the
in my
vampires the
books,
only ones that live for an extended period of time, or do the other creatures in your books live for a long time as well?
they all live for a long time.
A long time. It's
Yeah.
interesting. Sorcery is an interesting subject because, I mean, if you could live long enough, it's about knowledge gaining, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
It's fascinating. And is it
Yeah.
blood related as are based on blood also, or something else?
um
I love the idea of magic, how it works in books. I mean, it's just, I mean, you have these whole kind of, you have to make the rules for it to kind of function
Right.
within the world itself. So I'm always
What I
interested to
like
hear
about,
what an author.
yes, what I like about magic is that, if you want your characters to do something or something to happen and it doesn't seem plausible, you can always just say, but it was magic. So I like being able to pull that in and create something magical to make things plausible.
hmm Do you have a system for your magic that like a limitation that it works? I don't know, against. They're trying to stretch it or
Uh,
whatever. They can't go too far, or
yeah,
you have an
there are
explanation for it.
certain things, like, um, with the sorcerers, there's a lot of, between the vampires and the sorcerers, there's a lot of mind manipulation that goes on in my books.
hmm
Um, the vampires have a more, um, I guess, direct link to humans, where they can, manipulate their memories and their thoughts. The sorcerers have a limited connection. They
hmm
can do manipulation. They can, um, they can suggest that you do things, but with their magic, they can't make you do anything um, that you wouldn't do as
Normally, like hypnotism, basically.
normally. Right. So if they told you to go out and kill somebody and that's really not in your makeup, they can't you won't do it. But if you got a little bit of evil in you and they suggest you go out and do something, you might be like, oh, okay, well, the thing that keeps me from doing that has been removed.
Keep the sorcerers away from prisons, then basically.
Yeah, or really bad vampires.
Oh, they can control vampires as well.
Mm, to an extent, yes. The strong ones are. Yeah, I mean, there's you got different levels in the sorcery too. I mean, you've got your low level sorcerers who can't do very much, but then you got the older ones who are really strong and motivated, as in my helmet Furman, um, to go out and they push their magic to the limits. So
Are you the type of author who will write by the seat of your pants from beginning to
yeah.
end, not knowing which way you're going to go with the plot, or do you have an idea which way you're going with your books before you start?
With the novels, the first two novels, I did no plotting whatsoever. I just sat down and wrote. With the second one, I kind of had a better idea what I was doing with it because I had the first one to build from. So I kind of knew where it was going. Um, but when I did the first short story I wrote was Bittersweet, and that was actually based on the cat shifter that is kind of the de facto guardian of Jessica Sweet. He's been hired to keep an eye on her, and he becomes her favorite cat. She collects stray cats, and he kind of worms his way into her heart, as a cat. But
Mhm.
really, he's keeping an eye on her for some other people. Um, so that was my first short story, and that one I decided I was going to try this plotting thing, see if it
Mm.
worked, and it kind of does. I mean,
Oh, I think I'm going to start a novel using the snowflake method, my third one, just to see what would happen. I already have an idea, and I've already written like a draft, and it turned into something completely different. What method do you use to plot? Do you just kind of write an outline, or do you have like something that you're
yeah,
using?
just an outline. Just
Just
I go through and say, okay, yeah, this is, this would happen, and then it's almost like writing, doing the Panzer thing, but only in short snippets.
hmm
So I just say, okay, this would happen in this chapter. So if that happens, then this would have to happen in the next chapter, and then so on. And then I just go and flesh it out.
Did you
But
always
unfortunately,
know? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, but unfortunately, that doesn't always work out because once I start writing it, I kind of sometimes it veers off and goes in a different direction, and
Yeah,
you
I
know,
would imagine would have to. I mean, just from my creative standpoint, it's like, how do you know how things are gonna go? I mean, you can't figure out all the plot holes before you write them, right?
no, no, and there's a lot of going back and adding chapters and different, filling in, like you said, filling in all the holes and
Yeah.
and making sure it all connects. And yeah.
I just finished my second one and I rewrote the beginning of it over and over and over again. Now, I'm not talking about starting from sentence one. I'm talking about adding chapters to the beginning of my novel, going, oh my God, I need to start further back. My goal was to write no backstory at all and just to have, the chapters living on their own.
Right.
Did you always know this was going to be a trilogy, or had you just gone into it with like a short story that just did not end?
No, the first book I knew was going to be a full novel. Um, Once I finished that, I knew that I wouldn't be able to tell the whole story in just one, and that I knew that there would be at least two more. And so yeah, by the time I published it, which was about 7 years after I wrote it,
Hmm.
by that point I knew that it was going to be three.
So you started this thing in 2009,
Yes.
and 2016 is when you published, and you've already got three of these
Yes.
done in less than a year. No, 2 years.
In 2 years, yeah, I've got three written, two published, and yeah, and then I'll have the third one coming out in March.
What did you already have an idea of what you were going to do with the novel once you published it, or were you kind of going by the seat of your pants with that as well?
That was totally by the seat of my pants. I had no idea even how to publish. I mean, I was afraid to even show it to anybody.
Interesting.
And I had a friend from work, published a little self-help book, and I started talking to her, and she's like, oh yeah, it's easy, you just go on here and do this, you just go on here and do that, and you push somebody. Well, it wasn't exactly that easy. And her book was like 50 pages compared to my 350. But so it was a little more complicated where mine was concerned. Um but yeah, that it just, her enthusiasm, she read it for me. She was the first person to read it. And
How'd that
when she
feel,
read it, I'm
giving it to
sorry.
her? How did that feel, handing it over?
Terrifying.
Right?
It was like, well, I said she was the first. There was actually, I sent it to one other person, and she never even told me that she finished it. She told me at certain point that she said it was worth having someone look at, but then she never got back with me. So, and I was afraid to ask her if she'd finished it. And so I never really knew how she felt about it.
It's the
And that
worst
was
feeling, isn't
like,
it? You're
oh, it
waiting
is,
for the
it is.
response. Like, wait, did you read it? Is it collecting dust someplace?
Right, right. And it turns out she's like my biggest fan. So,
Oh,
I
that's
mean,
fantastic. So what was her
yeah.
excuse for not getting back to you?
Um, she was afraid to hurt my feelings because it
Oh,
was it was a really rough draft. It was early on. It was probably in the third year of it, of me messing around with it. And she just was afraid she would hurt my feelings. And you
had you
know
ever written anything before this? I mean, I know you said you were getting into this from a position of emotional distraught, being
Mhm.
emotionally distraught, but had you written anything before, short stories, gone to school for writing or anything, or
I never went to school for it. I used to write music, um, I poetry, stuff like that. Nothing that I ever felt was, worthy of showing anybody.
mhm,
Um,
poetry to a novel? Wow, that's
yeah, so I
impressive.
just I just jumped right in.
I mean, it's just so fascinating that you're writing this thing, and I mean, did you even have kind of the idea that you were looking for the feedback that you needed to make this a better draft? I mean, obviously she noticed things
Yeah,
that she could have told you to help, and she felt
right,
that she was afraid to do so, and
right.
that information would have helped you along the way significantly, whether it was good or
Well, and
bad.
she did say one thing. She said that sometimes it was repetitive, and that was a huge help
Mm.
because I know what, as a reader, and I mean I'm an avid reader. When I see the same word 6 times in the same page, I'm like freaking
Oh, I
out.
gotta find a new something
So
to read.
right, and so then I realized that my vocabulary really needed some expansion
You need a new
as
thesaurus.
I read through. But then, but I was able to look for that sort of thing. So the one
Yeah.
thing she did give me was huge. But and she said, when she read the final product, she said, I was going to, of course she was always going to review it. She said, I was going to give you 5 stars and then not leave a review because it didn't matter, because I love you. I'm just going to give you these 5 stars and just go away. But she said, oh my God, you're really an author. She said she couldn't get over it. She said, I can't believe you're a real author. And I'm like, okay, thank you.
It's gotta be amazing. I mean, did you,
Yeah,
in your wildest dreams, imagine that you'd be the author of 3 books and a collection of novellas and short stories on its way to a book
never,
in itself? No.
never, no,
So,
not in my wildest dreams.
so you publish Sweet Vengeance, and you finally
Mm-hmm,
do it 9
mm-hmm,
years after you start it, and you have no
mm-hmm,
clue what you're doing. You just put it on
yeah.
Amazon. What
Mm-hmm.
happens then?
I went on Facebook and said, hey, I wrote a book. Anybody want one?
Your personal Facebook page, or did you find groups
Yes.
about? Oh, did you? Oh
No, I
no.
had
You
no
know, there's
clue
an
what I was
author,
doing.
not an author. There's a rapper. I think his name is 50 Cent. He wrote a bunch of self-help books somehow. They're not even self-help books, or maybe memoirs, but he says never sell to your friends and family. It's like an
Oh,
old
I learned
crack
that.
dealer. Yeah.
Yeah, I learned that very, very quickly. I mean, I do have a few who support me no matter what, but I found that most just run the other way.
Run the other way,
Um,
exactly. They don't want anything
yeah,
to do with you because they're afraid. Why are they afraid? What do you think they're afraid
I
of?
don't know. They're afraid they won't like it, or
Or that you're asking
uh,
them to buy it, or give me money?
yeah. I mean, yeah, and I don't. You know, I really don't care whether they buy it or not. I mean, of course, I want everybody to buy it and everybody to read it and everybody to love it. It's
Hmm.
not going to happen, I mean, everybody has different tastes. And my father, even, I don't even think he's read the first one. He said, now, are all of your books going to have vampires in them? I said, well,
What is
Daddy,
his thought on like mythology and fantasy and all that good
mm,
stuff? Is he
not so
a fan?
much.
He's not a fan of that stuff. Right? Um,
No.
so you went to your Facebook page. That fell flat because I did the same thing. My Facebook friends
Mhm.
did not care. I built it up too. Like, okay, I'm gonna look for everybody that I ever met in my life, and I'll build up my Facebook page, and nobody cared.
Yeah, no, they don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a lot of enthusiasm with the first one, a lot more than I expected. And,
Mhm.
and that's what got me excited about writing the next one and going, continuing on.
Uh,
Um, but, most of them didn't come back. They, a few did. And I am forever grateful for them, the ones that really really enjoyed the first one, and um, they always, whatever I write, they're right there. They're the first ones to push the button and buy that one. I have one friend who she will only buy paperbacks, so she's one of my best friends as far as the books go.
do you go through and
Um,
create a space to make your
uh-huh.
paperbacks? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I learned quickly that the friends and family aren't where it's at. I'm grateful for the ones that do support me. I'm grateful for them, from here to forever, because I do have a few.
Hmm.
Um, but if they haven't shown interest by now, since my personal page and my author page are pretty much all about authors and books, they're not going to.
Yeah.
So I just don't push it, and I'm not upset about it. That's fine. And some of them, I mean, a lot of them don't even read. I have one brother. I have 2 brothers, and my one brother has bought everything that I have published and not read one word of it. But
That's
he said, "By
insane.
golly, I'm going to have him." He doesn't read. It's not his thing. He doesn't like to read. So,
I've read recently that, most Americans when they graduate high school, and we're talking like a huge number. I'm gonna guess 90% of Americans who graduate high school never pick up another book. Graduates of
wow.
college who go to college and get a bachelor's degree, 40% of those people never pick up another book. Families, the number is so ridiculously small of people who read. I mean, as somebody who's an author,
Wow.
yourself included, it's like how daunting, I mean, people have so much entertainment surrounding them where all they have to do is let it wash over them. They don't have to do
No,
anything.
that's
I get
true.
it. it's very depressing in terms of what's available and what people are willing to do to get it.
Wow. Yeah, that I mean, when you can see a whole story in a couple of hours and not have to spend, a few days reading it, I guess.
Yeah, I look at it
Yeah.
as songs too. I mean, you devote 3 minutes to a song, you know whether or not you like it or not. But a book
Right.
or a short story, you have to at least give it an hour, if
Right.
not several days or weeks or a month of your life, just to determine whether
Right.
or not it's good or bad.
That's true.
Even when I was
That's
in high
true.
school, I noticed nobody was reading, except for, a small select group of people. It's
Yeah.
fascinating. I mean, not that your brother is a bad guy or anything. I'm not trying to
Oh
judge
no,
you.
no, no, no. He's
Whatever,
great,
but
but he's never liked to read. I mean, it's not like it's new. Even, it was school was not fun for him as far as the reading went. So, I actually never expected him to buy them, but he has supported me the whole way. So, I'm very thankful for that.
so you discovered Facebook does not work for family and friends
Hmm.
to buy your book. What did you do next? Did you quit?
Uh,
Did you decide that there's no way and you're never going to write another book again? Or how did you decide that it was
mm,
worth it for you to give it a shot? Or, I mean, what direction did you go in at that point? Trying to find
um,
an audience. Which is the hardest
I
part of this whole thing,
It
finding an
is. It
audience.
really is. I spent a lot of time on Twitter,
Twitter.
doing hashtag games,
Oh
where
yeah.
you go in and they give you a theme for the day, and you find something in your work in progress and that goes with the theme, and you post it. And I made a lot of friends through that. And then I started joining groups on Facebook, writers groups, and I met a lot of people in there. In fact, that's where I have my writing group, the Indie Fabs. There are 6 of us, and we came together during. Yeah, I know it's silly,
It's
but
like
we
the
love
Three
it.
Amigos. You got that fourth one there too. It's like, why are you called the Three Amigos?
Well, that's funny you say that because we started out as the Indie Four.
Oh yeah.
Um, there were 4 of us were featured on Indie Author Day by another author on her blog. She came to all of us separately. We didn't know each other, and we were the 4 people that she featured. And we just so happened that came out on Indie Author Day, and we also happened to all end up in the same group that was doing a takeover on Indie Author Day. So one of us, Jeannie, JB Richards, she said, why don't we make a group where we support each other and, we can help each other promote our books? Sounds like a great idea. We called ourselves um,
Indy
what,
Four. What are we
any
called?
Fab, the Fab Four, the
The
Fab
Fab
Four, I
Four.
guess is what,
Okay.
yeah, the Fab Four.
No, you just said it. I
So
was like,
like the
oh,
Beatles,
pop
right?
quiz time. What did she say?
What did I say? Yes, what did I say? Um, but then one of the girls that was running the takeover, so she came into the group, so then we became the Indie Fab Five, but then we got a 6th person, and that just wasn't going to work. So we became just the Indie Fabs. um,
Indy Fabs.
but yeah, so I
6
might
of
as
you
well
right
give a
now.
shout out. I'm sorry.
Yeah, please give him a shout out.
Yes, give a shout
Shout
out to
out.
them all right now. It's Renee Gauthier, JB Richards, Lyra Shanti, Joanne Van Leerdam, and Eva Pasco. And we all write different genres. We are all over the place in that, but we always come together and whatever anybody needs, when anybody needs something shared, or somebody comes across a promotion that's going to be good for one or all of us, we're always there. And we just last month published an anthology of fairy tales that we all contributed to.
Oh, interesting.
So Once Upon a Fabulous Time is now available on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited.
So, do you guys do you consider yourself a writing group, or is it more of a marketing group, or is it just more of a supportive kind of getting behind each other group?
Yeah, a lot of the second, a lot of the third, and a little of the first. We do um, a couple of us are good when it comes to editing type things. So, if somebody needs something read through, or, they want checked for any kind of typos or even plot holes or whatever, I do that. And I know Eva does it sometimes, and I think Joanne does it sometimes. Renee is um, our graphics guru. She does covers for all of us. She does
Oh.
ads, and she's a gold mine. She is absolutely fantastic. And and Jeannie and Lyra are great. They share everything. I mean, and we all share everything. It's just whatever it is that we can contribute, you know,
Mhm.
we're always there to do that. And we're also there, as you know, on a friendship level. And we have our own super private Facebook group where we can go and talk about stuff. And it's just a great group, to have. I wish every author had that kind of group
Yeah, I was
that
gonna
they could.
ask. I mean, that was gonna be my
Yeah.
next question. I mean, do you find yourself, do you feel like you're lucky that you found them, or do you,
Yes.
I mean, I can't imagine it's just luck, right? I mean, it sounds like it was just luck.
Yeah. It was fate. It was absolutely just luck and fate. We were all in the right place at the right time. The takeover, none of us had ever done a takeover before. So we were all like freaking out because we didn't know what we were doing.
What exactly is a takeover?
It's You set it up. You can set it up from your author page or it's an event. You set up an event on Facebook, and then each author gets a half hour or an hour to take over that event and post whatever they want. You can talk about your books. You can play games. You can give away prizes. Talk to people. The fans come in and chit chat with you, and then the next hour comes up, and then the next author takes over. And you can.
Now, you're talking about like a Facebook group where there are many, many, many people, not just like on your author page specifically, or like
Well,
on the
you can.
Fab and Fab. Where do you take over at?
Well, you set up an event
But
and you
where
take
though?
over in the event on Facebook. Like, so from my author page, there's a little button that says event. You click on the event and you set it up. You say, join me for, like, I just had my release party for Bitter Beginnings
Mhm.
on the 1st. And I said, join me on January 1st for this release party for, my new book. And then under location for the event, you just say, like wherever you have internet access, or from the comfort of your home or whatever. And then when it comes time for the event, the people just click on the link for the event and go to the discussion page and just start commenting and talking to each other through the comments on the posts.
Well, let's take it from somebody like from my perspective, who
Okay.
does not have a following that an event would have any impact on whatsoever. How would they do a
Okay.
takeover? They wouldn't do a takeover, would they?
No, but you can participate in one that somebody else is running. Samantha Sarkoza, I think that's how you say her name. She does takeovers at least once a month, and hers are like a week long. And you go to her, um, and she'll post saying that she's looking for authors to take over, and she lists the times, and you sign up for a time. And then when your time comes, you just go in and you do your bit. You just post. I usually do 6 to 8 posts during an hour.
Hmm.
Um, Play a couple games, throw a couple games up there, give away a couple of free books. Some people like to do that, some people don't, whatever. It's whatever you feel comfortable doing. But mostly they just put out the information about their books, their links, and because there are so many different authors, you get a lot of people's followers, you know,
Oh
to
yeah.
show up. And like, especially the people before you and the people after you, they're going to have their fans are going to be there waiting for their person. So they'll, they might come in right at the beginning of your hour or in the middle of your hour, and then all of a sudden say, hey, this person's really fun, and then they end up hanging up with you. And then sometimes they end up following you to your other events. So
Facebook is very passive too, where you get updates and whatnot. You don't have to actually hang out on the Facebook page, or do they hang out on the Facebook page?
some do, some don't. It just depends on, like you said, if you get a notification and you say, oh, that looks like something I want to check out, you can go in and look at it, or you can also ignore it. That's also always an option. But
What kind of games do you play?
oh, I always have a caption this one. I can find a funny picture on Facebook or on the internet somewhere, and then um, have the guests write a caption for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I just pick a random one to win whatever, it's usually an ebook or something.
As they win
I
the
did.
ebook.
I'm sorry.
They win an ebook. They win your book.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Like
give away merch too and stuff like that.
not so much. I'm not to the position yet where postage is a
Right?
something I want to put out yet. We'll wait till I'm making millions before.
Well, that's
or
interesting.
thousands would be good too.
I just discovered that Yu Howie started an indie publisher, and he makes like 5 figures a month, if not more than that, just based on the downloads of his book. The money's out there for indies. Did you ever try to get your Sweet Vengeance published through a traditional publisher?
No, I didn't. I had intended to, but I spent those 7 years or so, you know,
Sweating bullets, basically.
afraid to show it to anybody. And then the first person I showed it to was like, "Oh, it's so easy. Just go do this." And so I just did it. And
Yeah.
I've had, you know, unless you can get in with the really big ones, I'm kind of afraid of the smaller publishers because um I'm not afraid of them, but it's just, what are they going to do for me that I'm not already doing for myself?
What
You know
are
what
you
I
doing for
mean?
yourself? You have, I
Um,
mean, it really sounds like you already have kind of this fab, the indie fab. I want to add a number there, but it's the indie fab, the fab indies. What is it?
indie fabs.
The indie fabs. It kind of
Yeah,
sounds like that could be a publishing company all itself. I mean, you have people that are doing all the parts and stuff. Even when you go
exactly.
through a traditional publisher, I mean, you're doing your own marketing. You've got to develop your fan base. You just can't put
Right.
a book out and go, all right, I'm going to go to sleep
It,
now. I mean, you're working your
yeah.
butt off to,
Right. Go
get
sell
these
this
people
for
to
me.
like you. You're
Right.
exactly. You've got your graphic artists. I mean, you guys are working in tandem.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. So, well, that's something maybe I need to bring up with the group. Maybe we should create our own publishing company. That would,
Bringing in new people. I mean, it's really fascinating. You talked to one of my friends, E. Rachel Hardcastle. That's who I discovered you
yes.
through. And
Yes.
she
Yes.
kind of works hard like that, where she could bring
She
in
does.
other authors and whatnot.
Yeah. She really does.
So you are indie published. You're working
Yes.
with this indie publishing group, developing an audience, and that's one of the things that we were just talking about, developing an
Hmm.
audience. And you're
Right.
using Facebook and using Twitter, and um, how do you think it's working out for you? What's a question here that I can ask that doesn't sound rude? Do you think it's do you think it's working in the way that you want, or are there things that you would like to explore or have heard of that you have yet to implement?
I there are it's not I'm I'm definitely not where I want to be.
Mhm.
There has to be more. Um, I want to look into AMS ads, the Amazon ads. Are you familiar
Ads,
with the
right?
group? Yeah. Are you familiar with the group 20 books to 50K?
No.
You should look into them. They have there's thousands of people on there, and they're not all making $1 bazillion, but some of them are making a lot of money, and they're more than happy to share their processes with you.
Hmm.
They have
Is it a
links.
website or?
It's a Facebook group.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yeah. And but they're big on the Amazon ads. And I mean, I actually did a book signing locally here, and there were two of us at the table at the time, and she is a member of that group, and she told me that she made $80,000 last year just on ebooks, and quit her job.
Wow. Have you
So
read one of her books since then?
I have not yet. I haven't had time to read anything, but I do want to look and see. You know, she writes contemporary romance, little,
Oh, well,
you
there's
know,
that
on the
R
seedy
word
side.
though.
Yeah,
That R word really does well.
it
I guess
does.
you kind
It
of write that
does.
R word too, though, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of the R rating in my.
No, no, romance, romance.
Yes, well, yeah, that too. Sure, that's what we're talking about. All right, okay.
Romance is the indie gold. I mean, if you're writing
Yeah,
romance,
it
you could
is.
go wherever you want, basically.
Right, right.
It's a really strong genre.
That's because there are a lot of women out there that I don't know. That I mean, I read it too. So, but then again, I read high fantasies too. So I mean,
Mhm.
I read just about anything. But um,
I guess with
yeah,
romance, they have a specific niche, right? I mean, you know what I'm talking about. They have the naked men on the covers and the bodices and the ripping and all that good stuff.
yeah, right. And that's when that's kind of what I was trying to get away from with my
Mhm.
covers. I don't. There's just something about guy chest hair that I didn't really want it. It doesn't really portray what's in my books. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? I
vampires
mean,
don't have
yes, there's
chest hair.
I know, but that's just I heard that somewhere and I thought it was funny. But you just you see that and you expect a certain thing. And I think my books
Mhm.
are a little different, you know. I mean, yes, there's romance to them, but I think there's a lot of other stuff too that isn't depicted just by a guy's six pack. Um, but but still there, as you say, there's a lot of people who that's what they are looking for. They are
And
the
only what
bigger.
they're looking for. They
Yes,
won't
yes,
even get out of that. And
yeah.
if you try
So
to go into another genre, they will not follow you. I just spoke with a fantasy guy by the name of Garrett Robertson, who's doing the same thing, and he's made a really nice career for himself from indie publishing. And
mhm.
basically, we talked about genre, switching genres mid-career, and it just does not work very well. If you start romance and you're not a romance fan, you're pretty much screwed. I mean, you've got to
Right.
continue.
Oh yeah.
Your audience is not going to follow you to high fantasy. Your audience is not going to follow
No,
science fiction. I mean, they want
no, you're
that.
going to start over. Yeah, you
Yeah,
got to start
exactly.
over.
And you have an audience. So
Yes, I
yeah,
do. Yeah.
and there are more people out there to get. I mean, you
There's a
haven't
lot
gotten
of them. And I
yet.
mean,
Yeah.
because I'm not, yeah, that's the
Well, I
thing
guess
is
another question I
reaching
wanted to
those
ask. I mean,
people.
what's that?
Reaching the people. It's, finding those people. How do you find those readers? And, I guess that's where the Amazon ads and to an extent the Facebook ads come in. But um,
I'm not a big fan of the ads, especially Facebook and whatnot,
yeah,
because I don't pay
I'm not
attention
big
to
on
them
Facebook.
myself. I mean, at all. I look at them maybe for a second, but I never click on an
Right.
ad. I mean, once I had a blog that I was doing really religiously, and I put an ad up on Reddit just to see what would happen, and nothing happened.
Yeah.
Got
Yeah.
no track. I mean, just one $5 ad, but still, it was
Right.
a little bit of an experience. If I had gotten a bump or something, I'm like, okay, that's worth it. But I
Right.
mean, you just go away so fast. I think. Have you
Yeah.
done
Yeah.
Facebook ads?
No, I'm not. And from the way I don't really know enough about the ads to, speak really intelligently about it.
Yeah.
Um, but
And
it
I've heard they're
seems
just
like,
for the more corporate people. I mean, if you're going to sell
yeah,
Coke or you're going to sell the latest Marvel movie or something like that, they're great for you.
right,
If you're
right,
Disney
and
or whatever, but if you're,
yeah,
you or me, nobody cares, so they're not going to click. So there's got to
right.
be some other way.
Yeah, I think it's more. I think that's where the AMS ads, the Amazon ads, make more sense because, if somebody's in there looking at, what am I going to read next? I like
Mhm.
to read J.R. Ward, and they click on, J.R. Ward, or they type in J.R. Ward, and then at the bottom, my book pops up, that might, that's how you want to get in front of those people, because they
Mhm.
might go say, well, I'm going to get this book, but oh, this one looks good too. And,
Has anybody in your group tried it yet?
Renee has been playing around with them, but I guess there's a lot more to it than just saying, okay, put my ad up and see if it works. There's keywords and click rates, and I don't know what any of this means yet. I'm I have yet to watch the YouTube video, but
What has her been?
but
What's her experience so far with it? Has she
um,
said it's been amazing, or she's still kind
mm,
of learning the ropes and it seems a little bit daunting and disappointing?
well, she's not disappointed.
She's not.
She's not making the money that the others are making yet, but she is working her way up to it. And it's just
Mhm.
a matter of tweaking your ads and getting them because you also have to choose who sees them. It's not just the keywords that they type in, but it's, the type of people that they are. And, are you targeting, you know, women age 17 to 70, or, just 16-year-old boys in Madagascar, or, you have
Mhm.
you have to choose who you want to see your ads. Um, and until you know who your readers are, you just kind of have to play with things to figure that out.
Amazon ads. I've never actually heard of those before. A lot of people recommend email lists,
Oh yeah,
buying
yeah.
emails.
A newsletter list. Yeah, I just started that about 6 months ago. I can't say that I'm seeing huge returns from it, but then again, I haven't had a lot to offer. So, now that I've got more books coming out, and
Well, you have a
uh,
nice collection here of books. I mean, you have a trilogy done. No, you don't. You
no,
do
it's
have
not quite done.
you have two
It will
books
be in
of the
March. Yeah, I
trilogy.
have 2 books and 2 short stories now that are published. Um, but I need to, and this is where the other 2 jobs come in. I just haven't had time to,
Yeah.
spend in, putting out there that I'd like to do not Facebook, newsletter swaps. That's another thing that a lot of people have success with is, you put out there, I will put your book in my newsletter if you put my book in your newsletter. So not only
Mhm.
are you touching your newsletter people, you're also touching, however many people, these other subscribers to these other people's letters. So,
It almost feels like when it comes, it'll come in a font of water. Basically, it'll just pour all over you as opposed to drips and drabs. But I have no clue.
yeah, we're all still trying to figure it out, I think. But,
Yeah, but it's very interesting. I
somebody's,
mean, going back
yeah,
to where you said, you knew nobody who had published a book and you knew this one person who did a self-help 50-page pamphlet and explained how to get on Amazon, and you went from knowing nobody to being a part of this gigantic community of published authors,
I know, I
right?
know.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, I wrote a novel. I'm like, oh, this is such an amazing feat. And then all of a sudden, you're in this pool with millions of other people that did the exact same thing you did
All
and are
right.
hoping to get to that point where they're successful.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, and I know that the ones who are successful, they're the ones that are working their tails off.
Hard, right? I
They're
mean, you
working
have to
hard.
work
I
hard.
mean, yeah, it's not just gonna, um, like you said, you can't just, put the book out there and say, okay, I'm gonna go
Go to
take a
sleep,
nap.
take a nap, hibernate until the next one's done. I mean, those days are gone.
Right.
You can
Yeah.
never
No,
expect to have a Stephen King type career and just sit there and write and write and write.
yeah, not nowadays. No. And in fact, and that's the other thing that the 20 books to 50K talks about a lot, is that, you have to have, I guess it's not that you have to have a lot of books out there, but the more books you have, the more books you'll sell. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, because you have somebody that reads the one book, and then if they enjoy it, they're going to come back and read the rest of your list. Um, and the guy that originated it, and I just found this out, like a couple weeks ago, because I never did understand the 20 books to 50K thing. But he figured out that if you had 20 books and you sold $7.50 a day on each one of those books, you would make $50,000 a year. Which sounds very small, really. But
well, $140 a day is pretty significant.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
I
but
mean,
yeah,
I used to wait
when you add it
tables. You
all
make
together,
$100. That was a good shift. I
yeah, right.
mean, what
So
150 times 52? I mean, what is that? I mean, that's amazing. I mean, a pebble will fill up a jug. You have you have a little bit of
right,
water. You drop pebbles in there. Eventually, it's going to overflow. I don't
right.
even know what 150 times 52 is because I can't do math.
My calculator's on my computer.
I mean, yeah. I mean, what is that? It's 300. That's zero. That's zero. That's 25. That's 5, 7. That's a lot of freaking money.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's
that's a lot
actually
of
just
money.
4 figures, so I might have done something wrong. It's only $5,000. Obviously, I missed a zero in there someplace, but
Oh, somewhere, yeah.
I
But
got my
anyway,
degree in English, so barely got through liberal arts math.
yeah, math was never my thing either. Yeah.
So I mean, where do you write? You have 3 jobs. You do furniture with your husband and his
Mhm.
business. You have your full-time job. What's your
Yep.
writing schedule like during a day?
I write whenever I
Really?
can.
Oh, whenever you
Just
can. So
whenever I get.
you don't wake up in the morning and say, okay, now I'm going to do my words. You write when the time's
Yeah.
available to you. Yeah.
Yeah. When like lunch hour,
Oh,
after
lunch
I,
hour, you said.
yeah, my lunch hour is very prolific, right? But yeah, just yeah, whenever I can fit the words in, I'll do them. NaNoWriMo kills me.
Do you do it?
Yes.
You do it
Yeah.
every year?
I've, well, yes, for 2 years. I've done it every year I knew about it. So, but I won both years. So,
What do you mean? You're the one with the most words?
no, if you write 50,000 words, you are considered a winner.
Oh,
So,
okay. I
yeah.
did not
So
know that.
everybody's a winner as long as you write 50,000 words.
I
But
is it you have to participate through somebody to check your word count, or are you just saying I wrote 50,000 words?
there's a website and you sign up and you say what you're working on and you get, people follow you, you follow other people. There are local groups, writing groups that get together throughout the month and just sit down and have little writing sprints. Um, and then once you finish your 50,000 words or however much, you are at the end of the month, then you upload those words onto into the NaNoWriMo site, and they check to see that there are at least 50,000 words. And if there are, then you win.
That's great. Every year you've done that. How many years has it been so far?
Just two. I did it well, I mean, I started this whole journey as far as the publishing in 2016. So I won 2016 and 2017.
And those novels are live and on
Mm,
Amazon?
well, they're actually the same novel because they're the same novel. I wrote 50,000 words of it in 2016, and then I didn't touch Sweet Destiny again until NaNoWriMo um, this past year. And I finished it, but I still didn't have my 50,000 words for 2017. So then I wrote 3 short stories to top off the 50,000 words. And that was the other 3 short stories that go with Bitter Beginnings, but that completed that series. So they're all pretty much ready to go. All I have to do is upload them.
Do the werewolves, the vampires, and the sorcerers, do they all interact, or are the werewolves by themselves?
They interact.
So it's a whole world that you're building.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
I mean, they're not all best friends or anything like that, but they do end up being pulled together.
Mhm.
They tend to stay separate, but certain events bring them together. You know, I can't really say.
Well, I don't want you to spoil your novels, and we're closing in on an hour here, and I really, really appreciated you taking the time to talk to me tonight. Um, you were a great conversationalist, and it's just really neat to hear how you build your worlds and what started this whole process for you. And basically, you have the same hopes and dreams as a lot of writers out there. I mean, getting that audience to pay
Absolutely.
attention. And the saddest thing is, I mean, who is reading? I mean, where are they? Goodreads is such a
Yeah.
great place because, I mean, obviously it's going to pull in the most people who are reading. Amazon's another one. It's
Right.
really just a fascinating journey. I mean, it's not even really about success. It's about trying your hardest. And at the end of the day,
Yes.
we all end up in the same place, right? Not alive. And
Absolutely.
try
Right.
to accomplish
Exactly.
whatever you can in the meantime.
Right.
I ask three questions to finish up the podcast. And,
Okay.
the first one, I've been workshopping it for months now, but basically the gist is I bit my tongue like yesterday. So can you hear a slur? Because it's been driving me crazy the last hour.
No, I haven't noticed.
And now I feel like I'm tired, so it's like even worse. And I'm almost about to bite my tongue every time I talk. It's like, oh man, this is
No,
horrible.
no.
The
I
the
thought that was
first
the question.
no, well, it is a question, but it's not the one I intended. Uh,
Okay. All
no,
right.
the question is, you're somebody who has actually achieved something they set out to accomplish. You've written two novels. You're writing your third. You've got a nice collection of titles on Amazon.com. What would you say to somebody who's trying to achieve their own goal like this, trying to make their dreams come true by being a creator or an artist?
Just don't give up. Don't listen to the people who tell you that it's not worth it or that you're not good enough. Just keep doing what you love and find people who support you. Find your group of fabs. Um,
Find your group of
to
fabs. I mean, that's the takeaway, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, it
Find
is.
your supporters. Find the people that'll hold
Yeah,
your hand through the darkest part of the tunnel or whatever.
exactly, and encourage you to never give up because because there are times that I think almost everybody says this isn't it's not working for me
This
or
is pointless. It's never going to work out. Yeah.
right, but just write, just keep writing, do what it is that you love, and when you type the end, that's just the beginning.
Yeah, you got to start another story.
Well, yes. and
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 all
you
the
know
other
and
stuff that I hate that comes along with it. Oh man, I hate the
right,
marketing.
the editing, the marketing, the
Yeah.
all of that, but in
Like,
the
I'm one of
end
those weirdos that
it's
edits
worth it.
him while he's writing anyway. I'm like totally going back to the beginning of the chapter and rewriting it as I'm writing it forward.
I started I was doing that with Sweet Vengeance, but I wasn't getting anywhere because when you're reading 50,000 words before you can write the next
Yeah, you
chapter.
really do have to nip it in the bud and continue working on the next chapter. It's hard sometimes. You can get yourself stuck into a hole. Yeah,
Yeah,
man, I love that. Find your Fab Five. Five is like, or five six. Yeah, what is it called?
your
Now my
indie
tongue is
fabs.
really starting to be in my mind.
Find your
Find
fabs.
your indie fabs. I mean, that's basically the best advice in the world. My
Yes.
second question for you before we go tonight is, what are you reading? What's on your Kindle? What's on your nightstand? What would you recommend other people pick up that you've had the
Um,
pleasure of reading lately?
okay. Right now I'm reading, and I'm not even sure what the name of it is, but it's one of Brandon Sanderson's newest ones.
Oh,
Um, it's a short one. It's only like a couple hundred pages or something.
that dude's name
um,
keeps popping up, and I've not finished a novel of his yet. I haven't really even started one. I want to so badly.
oh,
He's like
he's
one of the
so good.
gods of modern fantasy right now.
He is so good. Um, but I just finished Eva Pascoe's. She's one of my fabs. She has a collection of memoirs out called 100 Wild Mushrooms. And
Great
it's
title.
memoirs from yes, it's awesome. And it's about the 60s. So you know what kind of mushrooms she's talking about.
Oh, what a great book. I actually
It
grew
is.
up in Pasco County, so I'm looking forward to talking to her.
Oh, yes, yes. You've got her in a couple weeks, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
think I bugged
she's
her.
fabulous. Fabulous. Yeah, she's fantastic. But yeah, she I just finished her book and Susan Wee, SK Wee has a fantasy. I guess there are four books in it. Spectrum of Color series,
Mm.
and those are really good. And any of my Fabs books, the JB Richards has Mariamne the Magdala. That one's really, really good. Um, Renee Gauthier writes, she's got a trilogy, well, two, she's working on the last in a trilogy of a mystery thriller book, but she's also got this Sweet Christmas series, Christmas
Oh, I
Miracle
saw
series
that.
that's really
What was
good.
that one?
Oh, they're so good. They're so cute.
She has a great name. What's her name again?
Renee Gauthier.
Yeah, it's a wonderful name. It's a really,
Yeah.
really nice name.
Yeah. And
Where can we find you and the Indie Fabs or the Fab Indie? My dyslexia is showing up. The Indie Fabs. Where can we find
Indie
you guys
Fabs.
at? Where can we find you at, first off, on the World Wide?
I I am my website is Aliya Dalrae, author.wixsite.com/Aliya Dalrae. I'm also on Facebook at facebook.com/Aliya Dalrae, and Twitter, my handle is Aliya Dalrae. I'm so creative. Um,
It's a nice
and
name too, honestly. I was asking my wife how to say your first name. Aliya? Aliya.
Aliya, yes,
Aliya.
yes.
Okay, it's very pretty. Dalrae.
Thank you. Yes.
All right.
And
I'm looking at your website now. It's actually very nice. I like the
thank
color
you.
scheme that you've picked.
Thank you. And then the Fabs are all on Facebook. You can find all of us on Facebook. So
Is there a Facebook group? Can anybody sign up, or is it a private group that only you, the six of you, can have access to?
the
Or
six of us
fans?
have our own private group, but the Indie Writers Cooperative has a lot of authors. There's a lot of that's where we all met, and you can find all of us on there as well.
I thoroughly enjoyed talking with you tonight, and I look forward to meeting the other Fabs. And
Thank you, Brian. I've had a great time.
yeah, me too. And enjoy the rest of your night and try to stay warm. I think this is going to be a devastatingly horrible winter.
It sure acts like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's been horrible. But anyway, thank you so much, and have a great night.
Thank you, Brian. You do the same.